You're listening to the Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson podcast.
On September 13th through the 15th, make history. Join me, Glenn Beck, and attend the inaugural Covenant America celebration held on the beautiful Ozark Ranch just outside of Branson, Missouri. I'll be keynoting the event on Saturday night, and the event will also include 2 days of the best Branson entertainment and other patriotic and inspiring speakers. Of course, Sunday is going to be reserved for worship services. The event is sponsored by the producer of the new movie Red Wing. It'll emphasize the vital importance of the Declaration of Independence. Every signer of the Declaration of Independence, as well as the indispensable man, George Washington, adamantly affirmed the protection of divine providence. They pledged everything, their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Covenant America will explore who America is and why Israel is more than just an ally. Learn how the grievances of the Declaration of Independence apply to us today. Tickets for this event are going fast. Order yours at covenantamerica.us. That's covenantamerica.us.
This is
The Blaze Radio Network.
Need more stimulation? Check out theblaze.com/TV.
And start your 2-week free trial now. Warning, the following program has been cited for its copious inclusion of the word freedom, and therefore has been deemed a concern. Listening may subject you to additional scrutiny by the IRS, TSA, DOJ, DHS, CIA, NSA, DNC, FCC, USPS, FBI.
This is the sound of common sense defending freedom. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, we got a bunch of the information on our upcoming tour at DocThompson.com. We are slowly revamping and redesigning DocThompson.com, and by that I mean somebody else is slowly redesigning and revamping. And by that I mean somebody is finally putting stuff up at DocThompson.com. But we do have up there all the information so far that we have on the upcoming tour. It's just the cities and dates, the confirmation on what cities and the dates that we will be in those cities in early November as part of our countdown to the midterm elections. We'll eventually have it at theblaze.com/Doc Thompson, but at least you have some of the information there. We've got a big one coming up tonight in Troy, Ohio. Now, this is an event specifically targeted at repealing and stopping and defunding, in particular, Obamacare. We'll touch a little bit on immigration tonight, but then a big immigration rally in John Boehner's district coming up September 7th as well. Pull the plug on Obamacare tonight. It is at the Courthouse Plaza across from his office in Troy, Ohio. Please join us 3:30 to 4. There will be praise and prayer at the courthouse, then a rally outside of his office from 4 to 5, and then the courthouse across from his office from 5 to 6. That is tonight. I'll be there. Skip will be there. Ken Blackwell, the former Secretary of State of Ohio, will be there. Freedom Works will be represented. Lots of good people out there saying, listen, it's time to defund this nonsense. It's interesting that John Boehner has led the charge to repeal it in the House 40 times at the cost of millions of dollars. But he can't be a party to defunding it. You can't do that.
I heard someone on Glenn's show yesterday talking about the rally.
The guy sounded like a fool. Other than that,
I know.
That point was really solid, though.
I mean, I know Keith was out, and I don't know how. I guess
somebody slipped through.
I guess that's how the call was able to. I mean, had Keith been there, I don't think that would have.
I don't think it would have gotten on. But
gosh, what a!
Please join us tonight or this afternoon in Troy, Ohio, 3:30 at the courthouse across from his being John Boehner's office. Join us for that as we say, listen, whatever you can do, defund this nonsense. It's time we dig our heels in and get done what we can. I just think that's hilarious. We will try 40 times, even though we know it's not going anywhere, but we can't defund it. You know what that shows? That shows it's just for show. Mm-hmm. That's what they're showing. They're showing they're just for show. They know it won't go anywhere after a vote to repeal it, but they still do it.
It's the peacocks strutting around, putting their feathers up, saying, look at me, look what we're doing.
And yet, when they have an opportunity to actually do something, we don't want to do.
Yeah, no. See, because that'll actually work. We don't.
It'll look bad too. It'll look bad because they're shutting down the government, so to speak.
Not shutting down the government.
Well, that's what it'll come down to. They'll say we won't get into the debate of whether or not we're going to defund it, and that'll come down to should we raise the debt ceiling, because that's where their power comes from, continuing to hold those purse strings. So that's what it is. When they have an opportunity to do the right thing, folks, the Republicans will not do the difficult work because they know at times it will make them look bad. The ironic thing is they look bad anyways. See, they can look bad to everybody, or they can look bad just to the ultra-progressives. You'd think they'd figure that out by now, huh? If we continue with our progressive nonsense, we'll look bad to everybody. But if we actually do the right thing being what's right, and second of all, also what we told people we are, we'll only look bad to some people, the extremist nuts out there. I haven't quite figured that one out. Join us tonight, this afternoon, Troy, Ohio, 3:30 to 6, courthouse across from John Boehner's office. We'll be there. And then Saturday, September 7th, we will be in Westchester, Ohio, right near John's office there to tell him not no, but hell no when it comes to immigration. More on the immigration front coming up 1 hour from right now. If you have comments on that or anything we're going to be talking about, 888-900-3393 or tweet at Doc Thompson Show or at Skip Lacombe. Oak Creek School District in Wisconsin. Oak Creek School District in Wisconsin is doing something absolutely amazing, and I wonder if your school is doing it. If your kid's school district is doing the same thing, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I want to know if you even know what they're doing. Oak Creek School District in Wisconsin has a new curriculum for third graders. The third graders that will teach them about masturbation and suicide and some things.
For third graders? Mm-hmm. Masturbation and suicide?
Well, I think it gets them ready for the future teachers that are going to prey on them.
Well, that's
when I say future teachers, I mean current teachers that are going to prey on them.
It lets them know what happened back in second grade. Sorry, kids.
Third graders, masturbation, suicide. That seems a little bit young to me. Just a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean a lot young to me.
Now, third grade, that's now 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
Well,
right?
As stupid as American kids are, it might be. Yeah, we're now 30th in math and science or something worldwide. It might be 16-year-olds. The school district has a handbook that they created for parents to learn about how teachers will approach topics such as sex, abortion, contraception, sexual orientation with elementary school kids. See, I'm trying to think as a parent here.
Man.
Let me give you those topics again. Ready? Sex. This is how they are going to teach sex, abortion, contraception, sexual orientation with elementary school kids. How about not teaching abortion, sex, contraception, and sexual orientation with elementary school kids? I mean, elementary, that varies from 4th to 8th grade, depending upon how the school districts place kids. Some junior high can be 6 through 9, 6 through 8. We had a middle school that I think was 5th through 8th at one school district I was at, so it varies. But third grade definitely falls into the always in elementary, never middle school, not junior high school, right?
Yeah.
So third graders being 8, 9 years old. Hey, kids, today, take out your books. Today we're going to talk about abortion, contraception, sexual orientation, sex, masturbation, and suicide. That's on the agenda today. Seems a little bit young to me. The reason they're teaching it this young, they say one objective is to make sure that they're comfortable with their bodies. You always hear that. And then an objective for 6th graders, by the time they get to the 6th grade at Oak Creek School District in Wisconsin, will be to define sexual intercourse, including oral and anal intercourse.
Wow.
That's one of the objectives that 6th graders will have to do. So, you got to start them on the masturbation and sex and abortion talk, so by the time they get to 6th grade, that they will clearly be able to define what is sexual intercourse, oral, and anal intercourse. They'll be able to lay all that out. because they have that solid foundation at third grade. You don't just jump into this in the first day of sixth grade.
Well, of course not.
You build it up slowly.
You see, you have to, of course, ease them into the idea of anal sex and oral sex with masturbation. You can't just go straight to it.
I think second graders are going to learn about twerking now. I think that's you started with the twerking in second grade.
Well, and then too, you're building that foundation, so by the time you get to high school and are learning about gangbangs, you really have the information you need.
Yeah, orgies? I think that's seventh grade, Skip. I think that's seventh.
It changes. I haven't been in school for a while,
outright shooting your own porn films as part of art class. I think that's ninth grade. So there's some changes in the school system you're apparently not aware of. What is that twerking, anyways? That's where you squat down and shake your butt.
It's the shake in the butt type thing.
So they're going to have Miley Cyrus come in and teach? Is Miley Cyrus has become a teacher? Is that?
See, now if we had proper sexual training back when Miley was in school, maybe we wouldn't have her out there twerking up on 38-year-old Robin Thicke.
Folks, I am far from a prude, and I don't think you should take your have your kids bury their head in the sand and not expose them to anything so they become 18 out in the world and they have no concept of any of this stuff. I'm talking about appropriate ages. And if you're broaching the topic of masturbation at all with kids in third grade, you're wrong. Sorry. Done. You're off your rocker. And suicide, sorry, you only need to bring that up with third graders if they've been exposed to suicide. Their buddy kills themselves, a loved one, and then that is on a case-by-case basis.
If a kid hangs himself in the school, you can have that kind of discussion.
And even that, I would say, is the responsibility of the parents, not the school.
I agree.
The school can
answer
broach on it.
If kids are coming to it troubled and want
to know
talk
to your parents, right, something like that.
But to bring that up as part of the curriculum?
Wisconsin, man, I don't know what's going on. School districts across the state have different booklets with guidelines on how they can teach sensitive topics. Some guidelines are uniform. Others are saying you can choose yourself whether or not to teach masturbation. That's one of the things. They leave it up to the local school district. Some school boards can opt out of teaching some of those things, but some topics they have to cover. According to Oak Creek's booklet, teachers are supposed to describe masturbation to students as, quote, the stimulation of one's own genitals for the purposes of achieving sexual pleasure. Let me write that down. Make sure I know that. In case there's a test on that. Purpose.
Stimulating one's
pleasure. Own.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's key. Own.
The staff are advised to tell students that some people masturbate while some don't. So what are they lying to kids for here? See, now they're lying to them on top of it. Family values about masturbation can vary, they're supposed to tell them as well. Family values, and therein lies the rub. No pun intended. That's the trouble right there. Some family values about masturbation can vary. That's the point. That's what this all comes down to. Once again, a school district, or a whacked-out teacher or their union deciding they know what's right for a student or a child. That family values can vary. Your family might be one of those nutty ones who say don't talk about sex or don't teach sex. Or they might be progressive and smart and actually discuss masturbation with second graders.
You know something else that family values sometimes vary on? Gun rights. But, you don't really hear about gun safety in course, and that's not part of the manual curriculum anymore.
Yeah, they're not mentioning that, are they? This is about too much power in your local school districts and teachers and administrators believing they deserve that they should be able to say and know what's best for your child. This handbook at Oak Creek School District in Wisconsin says that students will be encouraged to talk to parents in order to help them develop their own values and beliefs about masturbation.
Hey, Mom!
In order to help them develop their own values and beliefs about masturbation. I didn't realize that you had to have a discussion to figure that one out. World's been around a long time. And this phenomenon known as masturbation obviously has been happening because they're discussing it, right?
Yes.
And it's been happening prior to parents and teachers discussing with kids masturbation and how to develop their own values and beliefs on that topic. Johnny, what are your values and beliefs on this?
That's going to be a really uncomfortable discussion at the dinner table when they ask Johnny what they learned today.
Well, my homework for tonight. Imagine you may encourage to do your kids have your kids do a lot of homework. No, this is incredibly frustrating to me when I see the attitude. It's not the individual teaching. It's not the individual curriculum failed, a bad decision. It's the attitude behind it that has led to so much nuttiness. The attitude where, as I said, they believe they know what's right, shouldn't know what's right, that they would even consider such things. How did schools become we're going to teach life values from reading, writing, and arithmetic? The ironic thing is kids can't read. They can't write. They can't do arithmetic. They can't do these things. As I said, America, who spends more money than the rest of the world on education, nobody even comes close. And we are 20th and 30th in the 20s and 30s in math and science. Kids in America, they don't have to worry about where their meal's coming from. Although they claim, well, kids are starving. They're not. You can feed. We've got money, food. Kids don't really have the same problems the rest of the world has, where they have to walk to school fighting off lions along the way. They don't have these issues. We put more money into it, and we are in the 20s and 30s in math and science, and yet we're going to worry about teaching masturbation. How about teaching them how to read and write and cipher before you worry about this? You haven't succeeded in teaching them the basics, yet you've decided to take on the role of teaching them about abortion, suicide, masturbation, contraception, and other nutty things. Do your job first. Maybe show us you can do a good job with that, and then we'll decide if you should teach these other things.
Yeah, they're deciding to take on additional teaching responsibilities when they can't even prove themselves proficient in the bare basics.
All right, I got to tell you what an Akron Children's Hospital is doing. You are not going to believe this. Going to take a quick break. I'll share it with you next on The Morning Blaze.
Not a puppy, a ninja, a dancing bird, or an angry kitty. Just a talking doc. This is The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson on the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury. $888-900-3393.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
I got to tell you, if the curriculum when I was in school included masturbation, I would have been much better educated. I can imagine my career path may have been a little bit different.
I wasn't a great student, bud.
You know, I might have actually taken part in that science fair. There's a lot of things I probably would have been more proactive about. I mean, creating those dioramas.
You wouldn't have waited to the last night to always do the dioramas. And
I would have been working on it for weeks and weeks. I'm doing my homework!
Get those trifold boards,
Leave me alone! I'm doing my homework! Mom, can you drop me off at the library? I'm doing some extra credit. Yes.
Imagine, the parents getting on to the kids for not doing their work. How are you ever going to get into a good school if you don't do your work? Go masturbate, Johnny, now!
How do you expect to get ahead? How do you expect to get ahead if you're not doing your homework? This is nutty. You know, I feel like I'm 107. I feel like I'm that Elvis shaking his pelvis on TV. It's not about that. It's about, at some point, it is inappropriate. And if I am being the crazy old, Elvis is shaking his pelvis, we're all going to hell, old dude, then at least let's agree that it should be the parents' choice and not the school board saying, for homework tonight, study up on masturbation, third graders. How about that?
That's a really good point, too, about being like the old guy finally and being offended by this stuff. I mean, I too, with combination of Miley Cyrus over the weekend and hearing news stories like this, I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, what are these kids doing? These newfangled kids. I'm finally looking at them like, wow, that's just beyond me now. I just don't get it.
Oak Creek School District in Wisconsin. How do you say, okay, we've been waiting to teach masturbation. Third graders, you're finally there. Why not second at that point?
Yeah.
Why not? Do you have pre-masturbation classes like pre-algebra? You're not ready for algebra yet, pre-algebra. You're not quite ready for the masturbation discussion, second graders. We'll put you in pre-masturbation discussions. Why the cutoff at third grade? Why not just go ahead in kindergarten?
Ooh, it would make movie day really interesting, though.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Mercury.
Instead of punching a total stranger this morning, punch these numbers into your phone. 888-900-3393. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
There is a children's hospital in Akron that wants the court to grant it guardianship over a 10-year-old girl. A hospital in Akron has petitioned the court to give it guardianship over a 10-year-old girl. The girl is Amish, and she has leukemia. Now, her parents started her on leukemia. 10-year-old girl, so that's third, maybe up into fourth grade, right? That's the same age bracket we're talking about. They started her on chemotherapy treatments, and the girl didn't do well on the treatments. The treatments, we understand it, chemotherapy treatments back in the day were brutal. I mean, they were. This is a slash and burn policy. You're saying we're going to destroy the cancer and a whole lot of other stuff, including parts of you. But if we don't, you're going to die from the cancer. So let's give it a shot. It was like that. And back in the day, it was really hard on your body, and you were very sick, nauseous the whole time. Now there are some drugs they can give you with it to keep you from being so nauseous. It's still not a pleasant experience. The girl did not react well to it. So it's a 10-year-old too. At that age, you're a little more sensitive to things as well, generally speaking. 10-year-old Amish girl didn't react well to the chemotherapy and begged her parents to stop the treatment. Her parents decided they were going to take her off the treatment. They didn't want to see her suffer like that. So they decided to try some other holistic approaches, natural remedies, herbs. They're trying all kinds of different things. They're just like chemotherapy isn't working for her. They made that decision. This hospital in Akron, it's Akron's Children's Hospital, petitioned the court to give them guardianship over the 10-year-old to force her to have the chemotherapy. Do you find that okay? Is that all right? They say it's their ethical responsibility.
Of course not. It's the parents and the child's decision for how they should treat their illness.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, it is the child and the parent's decision. Parents, ultimately, I would hope a parent would take some of the child's consideration, depending upon their age, factor that in. If the kid is 5, you're probably not going to weigh as much of his comments as if he's 16 or 17. Take that into consideration. The parents make the decision. That's how it's supposed to work. The hospital can encourage them, can say, here's the information, but ultimately that's it. Now, when they petitioned the courts, they lost. A judge blocked their attorney. Their attorney is also a registered nurse and said, you cannot make decisions for the girl. This is the parent's responsibility. This was about 4 weeks ago. They says the parents can make medical decisions for her because there is no evidence they are unfit. Case closed. Unfortunately, the case wasn't closed. Guess what Akron's Children's Hospital is doing?
They're not taking it up to the Supreme Court, are they?
They are challenging it.
Why would they challenge this?
They are appealing it. Folks, I don't know about your town, but my town, and most of the towns I've lived in, there are children's hospitals is a big charity. I don't know about Akron's Children's Hospital if they solicit donations, but a lot of times they'll do fundraisers for Children's Hospital. And, they promote it and they advertise it on TV. They run commercials and tell you to be there. It is time, before you start giving your money to Akron's Children's Hospital or any other children's hospital, you see if they've ever pulled this nonsense. Akron's Children's Hospital, you are a disgrace. And to wrap it under the umbrella of, oh, well, we have an ethical decision to make. We have to, our ethics dictate that we have to try to save every child. You tried. You did your job. Your conscience is clear, or should be. Anything beyond it is you believing you have too much say. How dare you believe that your medicine knows better? I'm not saying I'm anti-modern medicine, anti-hospital doctor or technology, vitamins, medications, procedures. I'm not. But I also recognize there's a lot of other ways in the world. And even if you think other ways in the world are nutty, it should be and is a person's personal choice to make for themselves and their children. You are an absolute disgrace, Akron's Children's Hospital, and I hope the people of Akron and the surrounding area start realizing that, and I hope you dry up and go away. I hope you end up filing bankruptcy and go away, because any good that you have ever accomplished, any good that you have ever done for anybody that has come through has been washed away with your appeal of this case. It's bad enough that you would have the audacity to even challenge a parent on this. But then to appeal it, your ego has gotten much bigger than anything that you have ever accomplished. That's what this comes down to. Doctors are some of the most arrogant people on the planet anyways. The fact that the doctors who make you call them doctor as opposed to mister. I'm not talking ones who people say, hey, Dr. Lacombe, yeah, and just answer to it, that's fine. But if I say, Mr. Lacombe...
excuse me, it's Doctor. I didn't go to medical school for 10 years to be called Mr. It's Doctor.
I'm sorry, I said Mr. Lacombe.
Dr. Lacombe.
It's people like that
PhD.
Show you their arrogance. Does anybody, if I go, Mr. Lacombe... Oh, wait a minute. That's garbage collector Lacombe. If I say, excuse me, Mr. Lacombe.
Excuse me, that's a Morning Blaze producer.
Nobody else does that. Doctors do it. Yes, I recognize that you are likely intelligent, likely you are a learned person, you're educated. I get all that. That's fine. Good for you. There are a lot of other people as well. Akron's Children's Hospital and these dirtbags there have far trumped any good that they have ever done for Akron or anybody who've come through there with this one appeal.
Why is it that Akron's Children's Hospital thinks that their ethical responsibility in any way, shape, or form would trump the legal rights of the parent?
How about this? You're on the right track there, Skip. You're right. Why is your ethical, medical responsibility, whatever.
I took the Hippocratic Oath or whatever they're trying to spin BS out there.
Why would that trump not just the legal rights of the parent and the child, the God-given rights to self-determination of the parent and the child, the religious rights of the parent and the child? I mean, go down the list. It doesn't trump any of those, let alone all of them. The audacity to actually waste the court's time. That's the other thing. They're wasting your money. They're clogging up the courts with this garbage on top of it. How dare you? Akron's Children's Hospital, you are a blight. You are a black hole of disgusting ideas and principles. You should go away, and I hope you do. I sincerely, truly hope that Akron's Children's Hospital fails. And that somebody else will actually start a reasonable, responsible hospital that really wants to care for children, that really wants to heal people. What is the first part of the do no harm? Do no harm. The amount of harm you have done in this one appeal is huge. To make anybody believe that what you believe is right, that your belief, your treatment is right, is an abomination of all that you supposedly believe in. I cannot say enough bad about Akron's Children's Hospital. There is not enough I can say bad about it at this point. And they're probably not alone. There are probably lots of hospitals that have done this stuff.
Oh, I'm sure.
We've heard stories over the years about it. Anybody, I don't care who you are, but certainly in the medical profession, doctor, nurse, administrator, the head of a hospital, for you to believe that you have the right, as anybody has the right to tell somebody else what medical treatments they should have, is unbelievable to me. How do you get to that point? How do you sit there? I understand as a doctor or a nurse, you may see a child or somebody else dying, and they're not getting the treatment, and you're like, I know this works. I've seen it. And you get very passionate and upset that they're not doing it, and you want to force them to. You're just so frustrated. You want to. I understand you can be in the heat of the moment. This was a lawsuit that went on, or a challenge, for months. The judge ruled against the hospital, and now they're appealing. You've had lots of downtime at night to lay alone with your own personal thoughts, to say, wait a minute, I've pushed this too far. These parents deserve an apology. The court deserves an apology for wasting its time. The people of Akron and America deserve an apology from Akron's Children's Hospital. Anything short of that, and I cannot wish enough bad on that organization that it would go away in favor of somebody else starting a hospital that would actually do some good.
You know what else is just disgusting to the story is, I mean, it's widely acceptable. One of the most expensive things somebody may have to face is the big medical bills in cases, something like this. Number two is if you get involved in some sort of big legal defense or legal-type lawsuit. So in addition to all the medical bills this family is, I'm sure, having pile up, they're having to pay constantly to defend off this ridiculous challenge by the hospital, forcing their child to get something that they've tried. They've gone through the chemotherapy. It's not working for the girl. It's causing more problems than it is good. And they're still, even after the legal challenge was ruled on by a judge, continuing to bring this up.
That's the insult to injury.
Disgusting.
So they had to pay to defend what is their legal right to make choices for their child's medical care. It's incredible to me. How do you drive down the road so full of self-righteous arrogance?
Disgusting.
I wonder how the attorney for Akron's Children's Hospital, the administrator, the doctors or nurses would feel if I, Doc Thompson, decided what was right for them. If I decided what contraception they should be using or not. Would they ever stand for that? Would they ever allow me to say, what are you talking about? I've decided that you should be using prophylactics and you should be using the pill. You shouldn't be using anything. And by the way, that heart medication you're on, stop using that. And you're going to, what's the difference? If I would, you know, when I'm not a medical doctor. My degree's in aromatherapy that I got online. But I am a talk show host. How about I decide what they should and should be exposed to when it comes to radio, the news, opinion, entertainment, any of these things that are in my wheelhouse, my area of expertise. Shouldn't I be allowed to decide what's right for this attorney at Akron's Children's Hospital? The administrators, the doctors and nurses? Whoa, wait a minute. You're a doctor. See, I'm a talk show host. You shouldn't be listening to that radio station, I'm sorry. No, you're going to have to listen to this one. And you, don't read that opinion piece online. No, see, I often will contribute things to the Blaze opinion piece. I give opinions. So you're not gonna read that. You're gonna read this here. What do you mean? You know what? I'm gonna have to sue you in court and make you defend your right to decide what you can listen to and what you can't.
I mean, it would be one thing if these parents are in these situations when a hospital tries to step in and take care of a medical case. If the parents or the child is mentally or physically not able to make those types of decisions.
Right, there are gray areas.
For an illness or something like that. I'll even entertain a discussion about that. There's no evidence that these parents have any sort of mental incapacity to make these types of decisions. They've weighed the options and decided that they don't want to.
Yeah, then they're appealing it. And it's incredible. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I don't think that they would ever stand for that. But I want you to know if they can challenge on something like this, and then the medical industry gets even more tied to the federal government, wonder where we're going in the future with this. Let's go to Dallas, Texas now. Matt, you're on the Morning Blaze.
Morning, Doc.
Morning, sir.
Hey, man, get on their Facebook page. Hit them up, dude. Hit them where it hurts. Get on there and write negativity.
That is a great point. Well, just express your opinion, Matt. You're absolutely right. Let Akron's Children's Hospital know about this. I think we should. That's not me just being a jerk and to them. They are absolutely wrong here, and they need to hear about it. I'm not going to stand for any of this nonsense. We have to stand with those Amish parents to say they have a right, because if they don't have the right, Matt, then you don't have the right, man.
It's not slander. It's informing the people.
Absolutely. Can you imagine ever being in that situation? Do you have kids, Matt?
I do.
What would you do as a parent if they started challenging you and your decisions on stuff like this?
I couldn't control myself, Doc. I couldn't.
Man, I'm with you.
I'm from Ohio, and from the Amish community. I'm from Coshawk, and yeah, they're so resilient up there. They have such self-control to be able to handle themselves and that demeanor without just blowing up. I'm the opposite. I just wouldn't be able to control myself.
I'm with you, and you're right. Listen, I don't agree with all the the religious aspects of the Amish, but I have a lot of respect for it. These are, like you said, they're resilient people, and these are people who stick to their faith. These are people who are very controlled in what they do, very disciplined.
They are.
All right, Matt, thanks so much for your comments. I really appreciate it. 888-900-3393 or tweet at Doc Thompson Show. Tell us what you've learned today. Use that hashtag, what I learned today. I have a bit of a history when it comes to people challenging my decisions as a parent. It's not a pretty one.
Wait, you?
I know.
You have a history?
I know. Even in the hospital. I had a history with the way my son was being treated when he was born, where I challenged the doctors. I got two doctors. They were
those poor doctors.
This was a Cleveland Clinic. This is one of the most respected hospital systems in the world. And the short version is, two doctors would come in. They would relieve one another, and they were doing like 24-hour shifts or whatever it is, and they'd sleep, or long shifts anyways. And the treatment kept being changed. And he was born premature in that, and I'd come in and I'd look at the treatment and I'd be like, why did they change? And one of it that really was the red flag was antibiotics. They kept taking him on and off antibiotics every other day. And I'm like, wait a minute. I understand changing treatments, things change. But I do know a little about antibiotics, and you got to stay on them for a complete run. So why is this on again, off again every other day? They had differing opinions, the two doctors, on what the treatment should be, and they got into a pissing match and started changing the treatment. They'd come in and go, okay, let's see, Thompson. No, take that off. That's how the treatment's going to be. Then the next one would come in and go, what? I said. And they were doing this back and forth for a couple of days. So finally I called the one in. I'm like, what the hell's this? And he started dancing around. Well, it's whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I go, no, you said this, and then blah, blah, blah. And it took me, I'm not kidding, a half an hour of hearing his explanation and, meeting his objections and realizing he was lying to me. And I said, now, go get the other doctor. And I actually caught him at a shift change. And they come in and they stood before me, and I read him the riot act for about 45 minutes. And I said, now, what is going on? And they had finally admitted they were changing each other's orders. And
How's it make you feel?
I was outraged, and I said, now, whose decision is that? And I'm not kidding. These doctors standing with their heads down, the hands together, in front of me, and it's yours, Mr. Thompson. I'm sorry, what was that? It's yours. Then how come you two are going? And I just read them that really that. You're not doing any harm with this? I just back and forth. So a couple of weeks later, I ran into the doctor who was the head of the neonatal intensive care unit at the time for Cleveland Clinic, one of those two doctors. And he goes, I got to tell you, a couple of weeks ago, no one's ever caught anything like that. I've never had a patient or anybody catch anything like that. And I said, do you think I was wrong? No. But I mean, he's like, I want to give you credit for being aware and whatever. So, yeah, if it were this, if they actually challenged me in court, I'm telling you I'm not responsible. I will lose it. I will make it in a clock tower. I will be absolutely gone out of my gourd. You will see Doc all over the news at that point. Trust me. My name will never be bigger. Not saying it in a good way. I'm not proud of it, but I know I'm not going to stand for any infringement on my rights, especially when it comes to raising children. Quick break, 888-900-3393. Your calls on the Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Mercury.
Doc Thompson.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. 888-900-3393.
Hey, speaking of public schools, Hempstead Public Schools in Long Island, New York, put out their summer reading list at the beginning of the summer. Their summer reading list. A summer reading list. What's the goal of putting out a summer reading list?
You want to basically bridge the gap between the 2 years, keep kids reading and keep kids' minds working.
And ultimately, you're teaching them to read.
Yeah.
You're educating them, teaching them to read. This school reading list that they put out was riddled with spelling errors. You understand people can make mistakes. So 10 spelling errors on a reading list is pretty awful, isn't it?
Well, spelling are hard, though. Come on.
I'm sorry, this is 10. 20 spelling errors was...
Spelling?
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. 30. There were 30 spelling errors on a short
How
reading
many words
list.
were on it?
That's what I'm saying it. The list, of course, is, you're trying to get kids to read and teach them, and the teachers can't keep making mistakes like that. They had one of the books was the Great Gypsy that they wanted the kids to read. They just made it into a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
No, that's Gatsby.
The Great Gatsby?
The
Great Gypsy there.
F. Scott's Fitzgerald's great.
Uh-huh. There's, you may recall
it's F. Scoot Fitzgerald.
You can call him Scooter. It's okay. They misspelled names of the books, words of the names, the authors' names, 30 spelling errors. I mean, okay, fine. Not everybody's a good speller. I would think that would be a priority for teachers who are putting out a document for kids and their parents. But I wonder if they could actually just ever hit spell check. How about? I think the Great Gypsy probably was a spell check thing because Gatsby may not be recognized. I think it would be, but maybe it changed to Gypsy.
So these teachers, not only do they not know how to spell, they're not very competent using spell check in their computer.
They don't know how to spell, and they don't know spell check. Maybe they don't know it's there. Think about how efficient you could make the Hempstead Public School districts on Long Island if you just showed them where the spell check button is.
It's F7 even.
Got issues? Talk to the doc. 888-900-3393. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
On the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury.
This is the Blaze Radio Network. Warning, the following program has been cited for its copious inclusion of the word freedom, and therefore has been deemed a concern. Listening may subject you to additional scrutiny by the IRS, TSA, DOJ, DHS, CIA, NSA, DNC, FCC, USPS, FBI.
This is the sound of common sense defending freedom. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
Reince Priebus, the Republican National Committee chairman, recently at a meeting in Boston, the annual summer meeting in Boston, was speaking of the future of the Republican Party and mention some of the failures of the past. In particular, last summer's election season. Remember that guy Mitt Romney? Remember him? He said that whole campaign, the Republican Party, was hurt by people who actively and openly advocated self-deportation policies for illegals. He complained at this meeting, the head of the RNC, complained that openly advocating self-deportation policies during last year's election was, quote, horrific, and that rule of law rhetoric hurt us. The guy who is head of one of the two main political parties in America, a company founded on freedom and rule of law to protect freedoms, just said rhetoric about rule of law hurt them. Mind you, this is a party that fancies itself the party of, more than the other one, personal freedom and supporting rule of law. Morally, the people in this party tell us all the time what is right and what is not right. They've wanted to be the moral police for years. They've tried to be. Yet the head of this party just said that advocating self-deportation and rhetoric about the rule of law hurts us. Hurts the party. I don't know what more you need at that point.
What does he mean by rhetoric?
That's what I'm saying.
I want him in that context to define rhetoric. Mm-hmm. By rhetoric, you mean talking about the law, trying to enforce the law?
I mean, at best, what does he have when he says rhetoric?
Truly, I want to know.
Right, because it could be really bad or it could just be bad. Bad would be if he means rhetoric the discussions, where people had a lot of discussions. Because rhetoric can mean something very light like that. Just, a lot of discussions about it. Or it could mean blah, blah, people droning on it, right? So if he meant rhetoric in a soft way, it's just, there was a lot of discussion on it. It's the rule of law. I don't care if it's about immigration or anything else. You're running for, you're a political party running for president who enforces laws or Congress who passes laws. That's the whole point. Government is about laws. And you're saying people discussing the rule of law is rhetoric? It's too much?
Actually, the problem is nobody in Washington is discussing the rule of law.
So even if
even the Republicans.
So even if he just meant it as there was a lot of discussion about this. But if he meant it as in the rhetoric people just kept bringing up over and over, it's even worse. So he wants you to support his party who will run people for president and Congress and Senate and governor and so on and so forth that don't talk about the rule of law. Don't mention that. I would say the law in general. In fact, Republicans, you shouldn't even mention the law. You shouldn't even use the L word at all. Don't talk about laws. You should talk about puppy dogs, sheeps, fresh little candies, rainbows, unicorns. You should talk about stuff like that. That's what you should talk about. Because apparently that's all that he cares about. Because anything else they would talk about would really probably start broaching on the rule of law.
Well, he's kind of right. It's at least worked for the Democrats for the past 10 years.
He probably is, but it shows that he's only concerned about his party. So when his party has been actively trying to repeal Obamacare to the tune of 40 times, wasting millions of dollars. Not that I don't want it repealed, I do. It's just pointless. It's a pointless exercise, wasting time and money. Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. That's
it's a law.
A law, yes. So they really shouldn't talk about that rule of law and how Obamacare is implemented, right? They shouldn't. That's just rhetoric. All this rhetoric about Obamacare and the law. The Affordable Care Act law, that's just hurting us. We shouldn't talk about that. That's bad.
The president's already come out and said, too, that, if Congress and Senate will pass that repeal, he'll sign it. No, you idiots.
Folks, let me translate in case you hadn't figured it out, and you probably have. Reince Priebus, the Republican National Committee chairman, who I welcome on the program. Tell me how I'm wrong, Rance, whatever, Mr. Prius.
It's Priebus. There's a B at the end.
Oh, he's so liberal, he might as well change it to Prius. I invite him on the program. Come on. I know you're monitoring. Come on. I welcome you on. You can call in now, 888-900-3393. You can email at Skip Lacombe at theblaze.com. Excuse me, skip at theblaze.com. You can email him. You can tweet at Skip Lacombe, at Doc Thompson Show. And we'll set up another time for you to come on and explain how I'm wrong about what I'm about to say. Your translation from "it was horrific to talk about self-deportation, and it hurt us to talk about the rule of law in a rhetorical fashion." The translation is, I want to promote Republicans, and I will sell out any way I can and anything I can in order to get Republicans elected. Because in the end, it really doesn't come down to what they believe, any values, morals, ideas. It comes down to an organization who wants to keep power. And it doesn't matter what that organization is. So is it okay to discuss those on off-election year cycles? Is it okay that we discuss it this summer? Because really the election season doesn't start till next year. Really November as we kick off our tour, right? Yeah. So up until November, because then that's the year out. That's an election year cycle. He said, last year's election season. So this is an election season right now. Can we talk about self-deportation, rule of law?
Can we talk about the rhetoric of the rule of law?
I think now we likely can.
Are you sure? I mean, I don't want to piss off Reince.
Listen, if Rance Prius can tell us, I mean, I'm looking for a directive here. I don't want to offend anybody, He didn't explain why it's horrific. That's the reason I felt the need to go through and explain it to you. It's horrific because he's trying to hang on to power. In 2008, 17-year-old Jamil Shaw was gunned down by a 19-year-old illegal Mexican gang member, Pedro Espinoza. 17-year-old Jamil is an American citizen, and he was killed, like many have been, by an illegal. The relatives of Jamil Shaw posed a question to Rancid Prius. They tweeted at him after his comments, and they specifically mentioned minority outreach and diversity. Asked, how many Americans have you talked to whose kids were killed by illegals? That's simply what they tweeted at Rancid Prius. How many Americans have you talked to whose kids were killed by illegals? Certainly not all illegals are murderers, and they're not all bad people as far as, committing other horrific crimes. But the fact is they are not doing right. It is the rule of law. Self-deportation simply means you're going to make it unpleasant to break the law. If there is no booty to be had from breaking the law, people likely wouldn't be breaking the law. If there is no money in the liquor store, as I go to knock it over and I know there's no money in there, I'm probably not going to rob it. If I genuinely know there's nothing to be stolen in your house, nothing of value, I'm probably not going to rob your house. But Rancid Priebus, folks, is just the tip of the iceberg of how bad it's gotten and how bad you are being sold out. If you have supported the Republican Party over the years, you have no home left. It's done. It's over, folks. The Republican Party is over. Unless you are a progressive. Now, if you're a progressive, then fine, have at it. You have two choices. Do you want the extremist, damn near Nazi progressives of the Democrats, or do you want the progressive lights? Then you can go ahead and stick with the Republicans. Otherwise, the two major parties, you have no home in them. And the progressive light Republican Party is probably going to be done for a while. They're just not going to have the power. How do I know? Organizing for Action, the OFA. This is the offshoot of President Obama's Organizing for America, the OFA. His Organizing for America was basically his campaign. Then they changed it, and this became his his own private little, I think it's a PAC. I think you can even donate a PAC form to it. But
I believe so, yeah.
That's the one they just set up. Anyways, it's to continue his community organizing and his agenda from his presidency, the Organizing for Action. They're now actually supporting Republicans. Let me help you out. The president's campaign that shifted into the Organizing for Action is now supporting Republicans, not just in name or rhetoric, but with cash. They have started demonstrating and even running commercials in favor of Republicans, helping them who support a new pathway to citizenship for illegals. Yeah, they're spending their money. How different are they then? Paul Ryan is being supported because Paul Ryan has secretly been working behind the scenes to push a new pathway to citizenship. He was Mitt Romney's running mate. And President Obama didn't have enough bad to say about the two of them, neither did Organizing for Action. But now Paul Ryan, the guy picked as the Republican vice presidential nominee in 2012, is working behind the scenes on one of the most progressive issues out there and is being supported by his former opponent.
And that was 9 months ago, people. 9 months ago.
And here's the thing. Paul Ryan has been working on this for a while.
Yeah.
He didn't start this last Tuesday. He's been working on it since before the election.
I mean, what more indication do you need that these parties are not looking in your best interest? They don't have any differing views on virtually anything.
The way I understand it, I'm getting some information, and the Organizing for Action actually dispatched some of its activists with bags of money to go to certain districts out there. Jeff Denham's district of California, Joe Heck of Nevada, Dave Reichert of Washington. Dave Reichert, we already have on tape. Dave Reichert, if I'm not mistaken, has already come out and supporting the pathway to citizenship. He's on record. Aaron Schock from Illinois, the same thing. He's on record at a town hall. Dan Webster of Florida. Paul Ryan, as I mentioned. They actually are sending them to their district to give them support to try to get Obamacare, or to try to get this new pathway to citizenship. And then in one of the most shocking things I've seen in weeks, if you don't think the whole thing has fallen down, Jason Chaffetz from Utah has now softened on the issue. Jason Chaffetz, I didn't have enough good things to say about Jason Chaffetz over the last whatever years. This is a guy who supposedly gets personal freedoms and rule of law. He's been staunch on this stuff. Not a jerk, but just doing the right thing.
Now, Jason Chaffetz, too, has been one of the leading the charges of trying to get CISPA and SOPA stopped, too, the internet restriction legislation that Mike Rogers continues to put out there.
Yeah, he's been solid on all this stuff, and he came out and basically, and he didn't say it fully, but I'm going to interpret for you because it's what he means. He's going to cave, and he's going to vote for one of these crazy bills that the House puts out. Do you have his exact quote?
Yeah, this is directly from the interview he gave. He says, quote, "There should be a pathway to citizenship, not a special pathway and not no pathway, but there has to be a legal, lawful way to go through this process that works, and right now it doesn't."
No, wait a minute. There is a pathway to citizenship now.
What's that pathway to
the way people have done it forever. You apply for a visa. You come here legally on a visa. You meet the requirements for citizenship, and that is residency for a certain period of time. Then you take the test. You get sworn in, renouncing all other citizenship, so on, and you're in. That's the system that's in place. So there is one. He's saying right now it doesn't work. Unless he means, hey, we're only going to start enforcing it, which he did not say. I got to believe he's talking about a new pathway to citizenship. Read that quote one more time, Skip.
There should be a pathway to citizenship.
Wait, there is one.
Yeah.
Okay, please continue.
Not a special pathway and not no pathway.
Okay, there is one and no special pathway. Got it.
Okay, not no pathway.
Right.
But there has to be a legal, lawful way to go through this process that works, and right now it doesn't.
So what he's talking about is a special pathway then.
Yes, a new special pathway.
So his own quote, he contradicts himself. There already is a system. The system will work and has worked for those that go through it lawfully. It's just the enforcement that has not been, a focus. He's saying not a special pathway, but then advocates for a special pathway. Because if you change it at all, you're talking about a special pathway.
Well, and anytime you give 11 or 25 million new illegal immigrants access to a different pathway, that's a special pathway.
Right, if you're allowing them because the other people came here legally.
Yes, two different pathways. How do you say that they're not different and one's special?
So even if you change it right now, even if he's talking about, I mean we change it for all people, not just those that are here illegally, but we redo the entire system for future legal people to come here. Even if he's talking about that, he is still giving them a special pathway, as my producer Skip Lacombe just pointed out, because they've been living here for years, i.e. a special path. Jason Chaffetz just caved in Utah. And Jason, I'm sorry, you're done. No matter the good that you have done in the past, there are some sins, political sins, that are unforgivable to me. Now, the people of your district may still want you in there, and that's great. That's their choice. You are their representative. But I cannot support you in the future. I'm sorry. I cannot endorse your reelection. We must get you out. If you vote for any of these cockamamie laws that are being proposed in the House that ultimately will see this done where there is a special pathway to citizenship as opposed to enforcement, then you're done. That is an unforgivable political sin right now to me. That and bailing out General Motors and Chrysler, supporting TARP, that's it. You're done. That is, quote, unforgivable. Write it down. Etch it in stone. I cannot support you. You are dead to me. 888-900-3393. Quick break, then we'll come back with some of your calls. This is The Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze
with Doc Thompson.
Mercury.
You're listening to The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, folks, Skip and I are starting out on a tour because of situations like Jason Chaffetz. I have supported Jason. He has done a lot of good. But I'm sorry, as soon as you bail on something that is so important like immigration, folks, this is as big or maybe bigger than Obamacare. It is disastrous for America. To allow those illegals to stay here, it hurts us in ways that you can't even imagine. Not the least of which is morally and rule of law. I mean, you're giving up the rule of law simply because you're admitting you can't enforce your laws. I mean, this is stunning. What other fronts would we say that? Well, we can't stop people from murdering, so we'll just go ahead and make it legal. Really? I mean, when else would you support such a harebrained scheme that we're admitting to the world we can't protect our borders, we can't enforce our laws? It's morally offensive. It is destroying us when it comes to the jobs being, the people being insourced to take the jobs, and the economy is so bad as it is. And I support a lot of legal immigration. Bring as many people here as possible, legally. We're saying we don't know who's here. We can't control them. I mean, it hurts us in so many fronts. It is that big. It is that significant. And unfortunately, people just are not paying attention to it. There are so many other things going on that I think we're being manipulated here. I think this whole talk of Obamacare and some of the other things going on is to keep us from looking at the immigration issue. I think that's what they're doing.
Well, and you have people, I mean, on both sides of the aisle coming out and seemingly admitting these major faults in our immigration system, that we can't enforce all these laws and we have to change them. But meanwhile, they continue to perpetuate these things like the war on drugs and things like that. We waste millions and millions of dollars for, but they're not willing to relax any of those rules too that may actually have some significant change for the country for the good.
If you look at the number, how much discussion is on Obamacare right now? We've got a rally tonight that's on Obamacare in John Boehner's district in Troy, Ohio. And then September 7th, one focusing more on immigration. But it's amazing to me. You're hearing much more about Obamacare right now. They've tried to repeal it 40 times. They're talking about defunding it. You're hearing about all this other stuff, Syria. How much are you hearing about the House of Representatives caving on immigration? They have spent this time off in August, their recess, simply marketing and setting you up for their eventual vote, which is going to be in favor of making those illegals legal. Folks, we have got to do what we can to stop this. It is not too late. Please join me if you can in John Boehner's district, September 7th. That is a Saturday. We'll be in Westchester, Ohio. Details will be up soon at DocThompson.com. Join us and say no to a new pathway to citizenship.
You're listening to The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson
on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury.
The Blaze Radio Network. Headlines.
As the president decides what to do about the reported poison gas attack in Syria, Secretary of State John Kerry is speaking out.
What we saw in Syria last week should shock the conscience of the world. It defies any code of morality. Let me be clear. The indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, the killing of women and children and innocent bystanders by chemical weapons is a moral obscenity. By any standard, it is inexcusable, and despite the excuses and equivocations that some have manufactured, it is undeniable.
UN weapons inspectors are on the scene. The second teen suspect in that brutal beating murder of an elderly World War II veteran is now in custody. 16-year-old Keenan Adams Kennard is charged with first-degree murder and robbery. Police in Spokane, Washington say he and the other teenager killed 88-year-old Delbert Belton. Both teenagers are black, the victim white. But Police Chief Frank Straub denies it's a hate crime.
I would like to make it very clear. The motive for this attack was robbery. Race was not a factor. Additionally, there was no gang activity that was associated with this incident.
The savage murder of the veteran wounded in the Battle of Okinawa, sparking outrage across the nation. Hundreds of dogs seized after authorities bust up a suspected dog-fighting ring in Texas, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi.
Right now we set up an emergency shelter that's at an undisclosed location where they're getting all the medical treatment they need.
The Humane Society's Chris Schindler, a dozen people now facing charges. I'm Jim Faraday for TheBlaze.com. Now, more with Doc Thompson and the Morning Blaze on the Blaze Radio Network.
The news you need from the Blaze Radio Network.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. 888-900-3393.
I want you to pay attention to the key phrases when it comes to this pathway to citizenship. What they keep saying is a new pathway to citizenship. That's where the breakdown comes in. That's where they're talking about. I'm not supporting a new pathway to citizenship. It really comes down to the Republicans right now going into their districts, and it's been really successful, by the way, back in their districts during this August recess, because there have been very few anti-amnesty protests out there. There have been protests. People have gone to town halls, talked about a lot of stuff. Some have expressed their opinions, but it's not like it has been in the past. And the reason, it's not that people don't care. Look at the statistics. Most people believe enforcement is what should happen. They do not believe in any type of amnesty, yet they do believe in a pathway to citizenship and all of this stuff. That comes down to marketing. If you ask the American people, should these people be granted amnesty, overwhelmingly they say no. You say, should they have a pathway to citizenship? People recognize that the status quo is a problem. So the Republicans have been using terms like Jason Chaffetz, the status quo, it's not working, what we have is broken. Whose fault is that? It's not my fault. It's their fault. They created it if it's broken. Number two, they're not actually enforcing it. They're not actually doing that. They still have not tried deporting people. Self-deportation. They have yet to do these things. They're simply doing or attempting to do what they've always done, and that is just get to a point where they go, there's so many of them, we don't know what to do. Let's give them amnesty. And then 20 years from now, we'll be discussing this again, just like we did in the 80s. We'll be right back at the same place. So why are people not objecting to this more? Because they have brainwashed you. They've manipulated you. They've spun. They've marketed. They've put out a bunch of feel-good statements to meet your objections when you say, well, these people, it's the rule of law. Yeah, we're going to make them pay for it, though. They're not just going to be given amnesty. It's not amnesty. We're not going to be giving them amnesty. We're going to make them, it's a pathway to citizenship, and they're going to have to pay for it. They're going to have to pay a back fine, and they're going to have to do all this stuff, get the end of the line. None of that's true. It's not, first of all, it's not even true the way they're saying it. Not in the Gang of Ocho bill. Number two, it's filled with loopholes. How do you pay for something after having already benefited from it? How do you go back and pay for it? They've already benefited from being in America for years. You don't think it benefits you to be here? If you've been here 10 years, then if it doesn't benefit you, why do you want to be here? You've benefited from the protection of being in America, the bounty we have. They've benefited from all of that. So what's the payment that you get in the end of the line? It's not a payment. Write us a check for your kids' schooling. How long they go to school? They go to school 18 years, public education? Fine. Write us a check. The lowest school districts are $6,000, $7,000 per year per kid. You prepared to write us a check for $120,000 for your kids' education? Then you're not paying for it. And that's just the education. I'm really Skip, I'm heading down the road, man. This is really frustrating to me.
Gotta take deep breaths.
No, I'm heading down the road because I'm having the same feeling I'm having right now that I had last year at this time during the election. You know what I'm getting at? That I'm one of the few that told you over and over again, Romney's going to lose. He's going to lose. I told you that over and over. It's happening. And I was preparing myself for months because I didn't want to happen what happened to so many people on election night when they're like, oh, yeah, I can't believe Obama won again. I'm like, I told you, I've been preparing myself. I don't like the sucker punch. I'm somebody that likes to think about this stuff so I don't get too emotional and upset. I'm like, I'm preparing myself now. I know what's coming. They're caving on this stuff. They are going to pass this pathway to amnesty. That's really what it is, a pathway to amnesty. They are going to pass this, and I'm preparing myself now. So when so many people are shocked that it happens, I told you. And then number two, 20 years from now, when we see the fallout, I've been preparing for it for this long. Sorry.
And then in another 30 years, they'll pass another amnesty bill.
Yeah, I'll have another one to bitch about. In Rhode Island, Champ, you're on the Morning Blaze.
Hola, gringos. How are you?
What's happening,
Que pasa?
Nada. Just, one of the statistics I saw that came up was the amount of murders committed every year by illegal aliens. And I saw it was something on one of the FBI websites it was dating back to 2006. So it's not recent as in the past, 6-7 years. But it was 12 murders committed every day by illegal aliens. And one of the things that's overlooked here is the people that are here now, we don't know who the hell these people are. And we're expected to make these people citizens. I mean, we aren't even able to handle the amount that are here now, and they won't close down the border. And it's absolutely crazy that this is basically a Democrat voter drive. I mean, that's all this is. And unfortunately, you've had a lot of Republicans fall for it, and they've been trying to tug at their heartstrings with the, as I call it, the Wet Dream Act. All these little things along the way, they're trying to tug at heartstrings. But if you look at the facts, they're causing a lot of problems in this country financially. They're taking jobs away. I mean, the black community get hurt the most by these, by making illegal aliens legal. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. People don't know, the actual facts behind this. So it's really scary.
No, and I'm not somebody who is the job protectionist person that says, they're coming to take jobs. But the fact is, the way we have it right now, if you look at the unemployment rates, the true unemployment rates over the last whatever years, and the number of illegals here, they're doing those jobs. Champ, I recognize we can.
All this, it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea to pass this.
Yeah, I look at it like this, Champ. We have to have strong border protection, and that includes knowing who's coming in here. I mean, even people say, well, your ancestors didn't have this issue. They didn't, they came here. Well, no, that's not true. We have had different layers of protection over the years, and part of the reason we created more is because we recognize the problems that happen. Even during Ellis Island, they didn't just say, come on in. There was a screening process for things like TB. They wanted to make sure people weren't sickly. We had to make sure that certain people were not getting in that were going to damage the country. They quarantined people. They turned people back. You had to be able to take care of yourself. Now, people lied, but they had to promise they had a job waiting or relatives they could, depend on, and that way it wouldn't just bring down, the entire system. We've always had that. And when we've changed to make it more restrictive, it's because we recognize there were a lot of problems. It wasn't some xenophobia that just, well, we don't want people coming in. Yeah, I'm sure some people were motivated by that. I want lots of people to come here. Bring 20 million a year if we can handle it. But as of now, we can't. The economy sucks. We've got a $17 trillion national debt. We've got crime. We got all this stuff. We had drugs streaming across the border. We spend billions of dollars a year, hundreds of billions of dollars a year on trying to stop terrorism from coming in. But we don't know who's pouring across the border, and we want to make them legal. Do you realize how broken that is? On one hand, the government is saying they need to monitor your email, text messages, your Facebook account. We're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year protecting the homeland to make sure terrorism doesn't, pop up and start blowing up planes or flying them into buildings and stuff. We spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year doing that, but we'll just let anybody come across the border.
Yeah, they're infinitely more concerned at looking at your email than looking at the border.
I mean, doesn't it make sense? We'll just go ahead and stop them at the border too. Doesn't that make sense? Shouldn't that at least be part of the process? Even if you're like, well, we got to do this other stuff, shouldn't part of the process be we're actually going to know who's coming into the country?
Well, and that's what we've said for the longest time, is that you can't pass anything like a pathway to citizenship or anything like that with amnesty until the border is secure.
Well, the good news is it looks like Obama is starting to get some of this when it comes to the border. I don't agree with the rest of it, but he is working with the Mexican government now. They're discussing creating a new 3-tier security system to protect the southern border. This is Obama. It looks like they're really concerned. He says it's for drugs and human trafficking. I think his motivation might be more the human trafficking, but
this is a 3-tier plan.
Yes, this is Obama working with the Mexican government, and this is a new announcement. I haven't heard a whole lot about it up until just recently, but it is a 3-tier security system designed to protect Mexico's southern border from drug and human traffickers.
Wait. At Mexico's southern border?
Yeah, we're going to create a 3-tiered system to really crack down on the border. Mexico's southern border. We're going to go ahead and crack down on that.
I think you might mean the northern border. That's where the U.S. and Mexico.
No, it's Mexico's southern border. We're going to protect them. We're not going to protect ourselves from Mexico or anybody who's come into Mexico already. But we're going to protect Mexico's southern border with a new 3-tiered system. It calls for funding, that's taxpayers' dollars, to protect Mexico's southern border when we won't even protect ours. Technical support for security lines that will extend more than 100 miles north of Mexico's border with Guatemala. The border security system would use sensors and intelligence gathering to counter human trafficking and drug running throughout the region. So we are going to spend lots and lots of money protecting Mexico's southern border, but now at our southern border with Mexico.
See, I think you're kind of being short-sighted here, though, Doc. I mean, part of the issue with, people coming into America, too, is doing jobs that Americans won't do. Think about all the Guatemalans that are going into Mexico by the scores, doing jobs that Mexicans won't do.
So why would Mexico be interested? I understand why America's interested. Their argument, although flawed, is, well, if we stop at the Mexico's southern border, we stop all the people from Central America and also South America from coming up. So we'll cut that off right there. That's their argument.
Which is true, but they're not even looking at our border, though.
Right. They don't apply that there. But why would Mexico be interested in having the help protecting their southern border? Mexico doesn't want illegals coming into Mexico? Wait a minute. Hello, Mexico. Is this thing on? You're concerned with illegals coming into Mexico across your southern border. People coming across the desert there, across your southern border, stealing your jobs. What's going on there?
Meanwhile, they advertise on the best way to get into America.
Yeah, they do. They actively promote it and tell people.
Hey, if you're poor, do this. Get into America this way.
So Mexico doesn't want people coming across their southern border into Mexico, taking jobs and trafficking drugs, trafficking people, causing crimes, hurting the country, generally speaking. They're very concerned with that. So they say, yeah, America, can you help us deny people to shut that border down? Yet Mexico tells America, how dare you shut your border down? These people just want a better way of life.
Racist.
Bearded Spock. Mexico, on one hand, tells us, you are racist, you're wrong, you need an open border policy so our poor people and criminals can stream across your border and take stuff from America. Occupying your land. Not recognizing the sovereignty of America whatsoever, yet then they not only have a problem with their southern border, the same scenario, but they want America to help them stop people from coming in, and in the ultimate just outrage, America says, yeah, we'll do that. We'll go ahead and spend money to help you out there. How could this be any more ridiculous? There's nothing else you could add to this to make it more ridiculous. Wow, this is money, technical support, all the stuff we can't do on our southern border, but we can sure as well do it on Mexico's southern border.
Are they going to build a wall?
I think they are likely going to build some sort. Well, it is it's an intelligent wall, with the technology and a
smart wall.
The smart wall, that's what they call it, with the monitors and surveillance and sensors and all of that stuff. We can't do it on ours, but we can do it on theirs. So the only answer to this is either Bearded Spock or there is some true other motivation. The other motivation being they want Mexicans here. They want Mexicans and others here because they are trying to build a stronger progressive movement. They want more minions to do their bidding. They want more people dependent on the government. They want more people to join their political parties because the Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. That's their motivation. They know they can't change the conservatives in America, which represent over 50%. They recognize they can't change. So the only thing you can do is flood the other side with new progressives. You're not going to change those conservatives or libertarians that are in America now. So what do? Look at every front. You can brainwash the new people coming up. So what do? They take over education, public education, and even academia, post-secondary. And what do? They brainwash. What does the president do? He puts slush funds in all of these different things like Obamacare, the Gang of Ocho bill across the board to do what? To brainwash. And what have they done? Running more and more commercials. Sign up for Obamacare. Become more dependent on the government. Funneling more money to things like pre-K and Head Start. And saying more and more people not only need to go to public schools, and we're going to give them free daycare with these pre-K type programs and Head Start. Everybody needs to go to college where they'll be brainwashed. So every front, it is let's make more progressives. We brainwash the younger people, so 20, 30 years from now, we'll have more progressives. We tell them, resist the things that your parents have said. Don't listen to them. Those are crazy people. Those are racist. We pump money into it from them. And then we go ahead and bring a lot more progressives into the country right across the border and make them dependent on the government. This is simply some Orwellian nightmare. Create more and more people on the government that will be progressive and buy into this stuff. Separate the classes so you get rid of the middle class and you have the haves and have-nots, and the haves end up this small little group An oligarchy, basically, that are rich, that are treating the others as serfs. At every step, the macro view of this is create more progressives so they can rule over them. What have you learned today? Please tweet at Skip Lacombe or at Doc Thompson Show and use the hashtag #WhatILearnedToday. This is The Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Streaming stimulation that is safe for work.
Only on the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury.
The Morning Blaze
with Doc Thompson.
All right, we've got a big rally tonight, a defund Obamacare rally in John Boehner's district. If you are anywhere near southern Ohio and John Boehner's district, please join us. It'll actually start this afternoon. There's a prayer and praise event, 3:30 to 4. This is going to be in Troy, Ohio. It's 12 Plum Street. That's the courthouse plaza across from his office at 12 Plum Street in Troy, Ohio. We'll start it off at 3:30. The rally outside the Speaker's office 4 to 5, and then the courthouse from his office from 5 to 6. Ken Blackwell, the former Secretary of State of Ohio, will be there. Some great folks from Freedom Works will be there. We've got Dr. Joel Bryan going to be there. Brian Kemper, he's from Priests for Life. Faith to Action, Janet Porter will be there. There are tons of people that are already committed to being there this afternoon, and we hope we can count on you. Please let John Boehner know he can do the right thing or he can be fired. That's what this is about.
I'd love to just see a swell of people swarm into John Boehner's district and give them a piece of their mind.
So we'll be out there this afternoon. I'm going to MC it and speak as well. Skip and I are making the commitment to do it. Hopefully you will as well. There's another one coming up September 7th. That is a Saturday. That's going to be real big, and that'll be in Westchester, Ohio. And then Skip and I are going to be starting our tour this fall in November. The details are at DocThompson.com. DocThompson.com. You can see the tour dates that we have listed, the city and dates, the information as to locations and times. Those will all be coming forthwith, but you might want to mark it on your calendar. And also, if your city is not mentioned, we still have some dates to fill in as well. So go and look at the list. We just found out last night we likely are going to make a second stop in Minnesota. We haven't confirmed that yet, but Minnesota, you may get a second one because we had some people contact us yesterday. We've got some other ones to fill in. As we know so far, Chanhassen, Minnesota, we will be there. We will start the whole thing off in Oklahoma City. We'll make a stop in Topeka, Kansas. We will be in Omaha, Nebraska. Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll be in Birmingham, Alabama. We've got some other ones that will likely be announced today or tomorrow. Use the hashtag DocTour, DocTour, if you're interested in getting information. But the best way to start is contact your local Patriot group and say, hey, listen, I'm interested in having these guys come in. Can you host them? And basically, we need a venue. We need to come in and speak with you, and then we'll broadcast the next morning. So see if any of the local Patriot groups in your area can host us. If they can and interested, you tweet at us, and if we can get it done, we'll confirm the date, put you on the schedule. The whole thing kicks off Sunday night, the 3rd of November. Again, all the details at DocThompson.com. If you're interested in reading through the tweets that we put out every day, Skip and I talk about them, but you don't have a Twitter account, first of all, you should probably sign up for one. It's real easy to use. But if you go to theblaze.com/Doc Thompson, you can see a feed of all of the tweets that I send out, as well as all of the podcasts from past shows that we've talked about. Are you going to use the Common Core one?
Yeah, I think we should. We should start that hashtag. Speaking, of course, of the school reading list that had 30 riddled with spelling errors.
If you go back and listen to today's program, the first hour, we talked a lot about what's going on in schools. Incredible. Some of the Common Core stuff, some of the failures. Skip and I started talking about some of the potential books that Common Core could put out. Well, there's a new study that says people have no idea what Common Core is. I just saw the statistics. Almost nobody knows what it is. This is the rule, except for the few exceptions where people had stood up against it. across the country. As part of the race to the top, the president's thing, it was really just to slam through Common Core. That was the whole thing. But people have no idea what it is. They don't realize it is just the rule in your schools. They're all making the transition. A lot of schools this year, as your kids go back to school, some have already gone back in the next couple of weeks. As your kid goes back, they're going to be confronted with this, and you're going to be going, what the hell is this? So Common Core is out there, and people don't understand. So as part of this, Skip and I are going to solicit some book suggestions, some things that might be real standard for learning when your kid is taught via Common Core. So we'll use the hashtag Common Core Books. Common Core Books. You have some suggestions there?
Yeah, actually, we had Subvet treat in with a couple of them. We've got Treacherous Island. We've got A Sun Always Rises. There's a lot of flies.
Mein Kampf? That's my suggestion. Mein Kampf, I'm sure that's going to be...
A Creature in the Rye.
That for the misspellings?
Yeah, well, and of course, too, one of my all-time favorite books from F. Scoot Fitzgerald, The Great Gypsy.
The Great Gypsy, very popular with Common Core. So if you get a chance today, you want to have some fun with that. Common Core Books is the hashtag. Common Core Books. I'm sending mine out right now. It just went out. And they could be ones that we said are just the misspellings because we had a school district that sent out a reading list with 30 misspellings. Or it could be some other ones that you think may work, like Mein Kampf. That's not because of misspelling. I mean, from the attitude, from the ideas. Common Core Books, Mein Kampf. It's likely what's going to be out there. The more we can do to educate people, the better off we'll be. All right, Syria in the news. Folks, it's coming. Get ready. They're making the argument. They're laying it out. But ask yourself, why are they taking so much time laying out their argument to basically take military action in Syria? Why the argument? Why so long? I'll explain why next on The Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson. Only on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury.
This is
the Blaze Radio Network at theblaze.com/radio.
Warning, the following program has been cited for its copious inclusion of the word freedom, and therefore has been deemed a concern. Listening may subject you to additional scrutiny by the IRS, TSA, DOJ, DHS, CIA, NSA, DNC, FCC, USPS, FBI.
This is the sound of common sense defending freedom. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
How is what's going on in Syria and the argument being made by the president, John Kerry, and others, how is it any different than Iraq? How is it any different from the argument that was laid out by the George W. Bush administration to go into Iraq? I mean, there are differences in the particulars as far as who's in power and countries and whatnot, but what's the argument? What's the argument being made now? Well, you know, he gassed his own people. Yeah, but Saddam Hussein did that as well. In fact, George W. Bush had a stronger argument to go into Iraq, even though I don't support the fact that we went into Iraq and did what we did. He had a stronger argument. It ended up being lies, or at least partially lies, with the weapons of mass destruction, but he had a stronger argument, even without the claims of the weapons of mass destruction. I mean, even the Al-Qaeda claims, well, you understand they had set up shop and they were in Iraq as well. Please, they're all over the place. We had a stronger argument because of that than simply because of Assad gassing some of his own people during a... How come we're not going into Egypt? How come we're not stepping in there? Look at the couple of weeks ago that we know of, 1,000 people murdered?
Shooting people on the streets?
Right, I'm serious. How come we're not going in there? No, I don't want to. Don't misunderstand. I'm saying by their arguments that are being laid out about us possibly doing something in Syria, why didn't we do anything a couple of weeks ago in Egypt? The way what we understand, those numbers were dramatically underreported, that it could be 5,000, 10,000 people savagely murdered in Egypt. How come we're not going to any other country that has human rights violations? Forget all those for a second. If this really comes down to, well, they gas their own people. Is gas worse than being shot in the head? Apparently, the effects when you have chemical weapons used against you are far worse than any other way you could torture or kill somebody. I didn't realize that, because that seems to be the only difference here.
That's at least the dynamic that they're putting out there. I mean, bottom line is there are these atrocities that happen all corners of the planet. We were talking just yesterday about North Korea too. The horrible conditions that go on there and the horrible treatment of the people.
North Korea is arguably on the top 3, maybe number 1 list of the worst places to be, the worst governments, and the worst things that happen to its citizens. Even just for the slow starvation, folks. In North Korea right now, the government is manufacturing meth. They are manufacturing meth and telling the people it's medicine. And, of course, when you're on meth, it gets you all hopped up, gives you energy, makes you feel different and, I guess, better. You're not as hungry when you're on meth. So if you have cancer or any disease, and you're starving, and they give you meth, the effects of your disease and or your starvation are going to be mitigated temporarily by the meth. Now, the meth is doing more harm than good, and you still haven't solved the problem with starving or the cancer. So the people take the meth, and the government is handing it out to them. All the while, those people in power live in the lap of luxury with private trains and lobsters being flown in and champagne. How come we're not doing something there? There are countless countries around the globe that have outrageous conditions for their people, and we're not doing anything. So if it's not just about human rights violations, it has to be ones where the people are attacked by the government. John Kerry yesterday gave a long speech about Assad using chemical weapons on his own people. John Kerry. Whenever I see him on there, you know this is all about his own damn ego. It is so obvious. He's just speaking so people will look at him.
I'm just shocked they were able to get him off the kiteboard long enough to actually go in and speak.
What's his argument then? That it was chemical weapons used? Those are somehow worse? Meth, isn't it made from chemicals? I mean, really, it's being used as a weapon. All right, what about everything else? So it's chemical weapons used in that way. Is that it? How do you make that argument? Unless there's something else going on. What else is going on? Well, first of all, let's hear a little bit from John Kerry yesterday. Here's what he had to say, making the argument, it appears, that we need to do something.
The killing of women and children and innocent bystanders by chemical weapons is a moral obscenity. By any standard.
Hold on. Okay, it's a moral obscenity. North Korea. Iran. Women not being able to go to schools. People being killed. People being tortured. Muslim Brotherhood. Egypt. That's the only moral obscenity? This is the one moral obscenity that got you off your kiteboard? What about everything else? Folks, do you realize how you're being manipulated? There are moral obscenities happening right this second to countless people in countless countries. Right now. Moral obscenities to the level of the chemical weapons or worse. And where is John Kerry?
Well, and how many times have we seen, too? I mean, these stories come out, too, about a drone strike that hit a wrong target or something, and there were a couple of kids killed. Those are atrocities that happen by our own government. Why is it all of a sudden a gas attack in Syria causing this level of reaction?
Like I said, okay, I'm not saying it's good. President Obama attacked Bush. John Kerry attacked Bush over what happened in Iraq. It turned out there were no weapons. How dare you go in, blah, blah. Fine. Did Saddam Hussein do bad things to his people? Yes. Did he use chemical weapons? Yes. He did these same things. So why now? Why Syria?
The same videos that were posted from Syria over the past week, you can see virtually the same videos from 1988 when he gassed the Kurds.
Let's continue with John Kerry.
Moral obscenity. By any standard, it is inexcusable, and despite the excuses and equivocations that some have manufactured, it is undeniable. The meaning of this attack goes beyond the conflict in Syria itself.
Really?
And that conflict has already brought so much terrible suffering. This is about the large-scale, indiscriminate use of weapons that the civilized world long ago decided must never be used at all, a conviction shared even by countries that agree on little else. There is a clear reason that the world has banned entirely the use of chemical weapons. This international norm cannot be violated.
So really, I mean, they're making the argument against chemical. That's their real problem here, is that it was chemical weapons.
Clearly. I mean, the civilized world has long since said that we don't want to use these types of weapons. They haven't said anything about nuclear weapons.
Drone strikes? Those are okay?
Yeah, apparently, yes.
Random drone strikes are okay.
To refresh my memory, what nation dropped a couple of atomic bombs in Japan?
The
back
U.S.?
Are you sure that was the U.S.?
I think it was.
Both of them? I mean,
who's responsible for the most drone strikes, killing people randomly? The U.S. Folks, we're not peaceniks here. I'm not saying we shouldn't have nuclear weapons. We were wrong in World War II, or even to use drones in some capacity. I'm talking about their hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of them attacking George W. Bush over this stuff, who I wasn't a fan of. The real problem with us today is no consistency. They go back and forth, and if you point out their hypocrisy, if you point out their double standard and their inconsistency, you will get to the answer. The real reason that they are hypocritical, that there is a double standard, that they waffle, that when they do it, it's somehow different, goes to the underlying motivation. George W. Bush could lay out an argument about all the things that he did and the reason he did them and wanted to do them. Obama can lay out the same one. But the arguments that they're laying out are lies. That's cover. That's a charade. It's a falsehood. It is simply to mask what their true motivations are. When you have this many inconsistencies, this many double standards, there must be another reason. So my questions are simple. Number one, why are they laying out this argument like this? We don't know what we're doing yet. Meanwhile, our ships are moving into position. We haven't made any decision if we're going to take military action in Syria. Meanwhile, they pull out John Kerry to make an argument for doing something. President hasn't made any decision yet on military action in Syria yet, but they're drawing up a plan for strategic strikes. We haven't decided what we're going to do yet, but we're working with other countries to say who's going to bomb first and what targets they're going to bomb. We haven't made any decisions yet, but the president has ordered a plan from the Department of Defense. So my question, number one, why is this taking so long? Why this media spectacle? Number two, my question, why? Why would we intervene in Syria at all? Egypt's right there. You didn't do anything there. People are being bludgeoned. Why? Why is it rolling out this way, and why is it happening? I think it's quite simple. They're rolling it out this way because of the marketing. They know that people are going to say, wait a minute, you went into Syria, that George W. Bush. You went into Syria, what about that Egypt? You went into Syria, blah, blah, blah. They are doing what they can, even though there's not much cover here. They're doing what they can to create the marketing, number one. Number two, they're trying to look like, and you've seen this, this has been the modus operandi for years now. It's not just the U.S. going in. We have a coalition of people. It's just not the big, bad, ugly, evil U.S. of A. We got England and other people, a coalition, before we invade a nation's sovereignty or infringe their sovereign rights. under the guise of helping people, but we won't help other countries or people that are suffering in those countries. We pick and choose. This is all a big marketing. You're seeing a show here. This is a pageant. Remember Wag the Dog? That's what's going on as far as the pageant. This is the pageantry that unfortunately is one of the major components of government now, certainly your government. They cannot do or say or execute. They cannot come up with plans, laws, rules. They cannot govern without marketing. And the bigger it is, the more marketing they have to do. So that's the reason this is rolling out this way. But why are they doing it at all? They don't like Assad. Who is challenging him? Who's challenging him? Ultimately, the more extremist people. That's what's going on. You have Assad as one of those, we can kind of deal with him. He's a bad guy, but, we give him money and we can at least talk to him. We can have some influence over him. He's one of those puppet regimes that we were happy to have in place for so long. Now, they don't like him? Why? They see an opportunity for him to go away to have more extremists in power. I'm telling you, I honestly believe that that's what they're looking for, that they want those nutcases because they believe like they do. There can be no other answer. As I've said, Egypt, Syria, all these other countries, you've got all of this stuff. You could make an argument about any of them. Why Syria? Why right now? They see Assad on the ropes, and they think they can get somebody that thinks more like them. And by that, I don't mean some democratic, freedom-loving, Constitution-supporting person. No. They want the Muslim Brotherhood. That's what they're looking at. That's what they're working on. Do you know the ties Al-Qaeda has now in Syria to the people that are challenging Assad? Folks, you're being lied to. All right, we're going to get a break and we'll get some more of your calls. 888-900-3393, or you can tweet at Doc Thompson Show or at Skip Lacombe. Use that hashtag What I Learned Today. Will you include you at the end of the program if deemed worthy by Skip? Hashtag What I Learned Today. This is the Morning Blaze.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury. The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All right, people are starting to tweet. I just had a really solid tweet come in. James West just tweeted, at Doc Thompson Show, I wish the administration would have shown such vigilance in Benghazi. They had an opportunity to do what was right for the American people in a foreign country. In Benghazi, people there representing the president. And they didn't. How many breakdowns with the incident in Benghazi? They didn't care then. Maybe if they had used chemical weapons to kill the Americans at the embassy in Benghazi. The consulate.
Yeah, you're completely blowing that out. I mean, these people were just shot in the head, beaten, and dragged out on the streets. It's not like they were gassed.
I mean, they were sodomized too, but
that's true. But they weren't gassed though. Okay.
So you're telling me, had they taken a can of Raid and sprayed it in their general direction before shooting him in the head, then it would have been important, right? Because that's a chemical, and you could use that as a weapon.
I mean, for a long time, the civilized world said we wouldn't use these weapons. When we do, I mean, we rape, we beat, and we'd shoot him in the head, but we won't use gas, damn it.
Rape and civilized weapons like guns to shoot them in the head, they're okay with that. Nothing to see here. Nothing happened in Benghazi. Move on. Even though those are Americans, but...
I mean, what difference at this point does it make?
I tweeted that out yesterday, by the way. If you see that, go back and you should retweet that today. We should use the hashtag Syria and tweet, what difference at this point does it make? Get the quote right. What difference, comma, at this point, comma, does it make? What difference at this point? Hashtag Syria, and use it and just keep tweeting out at the president and all the people. We should just get that going like crazy. So you can make that argument to John Kerry. John, what about the chemical weapons? I mean, that was a while ago. It wasn't yesterday. What difference at this point does it make, John?
Those people are dead.
What do you see the hypocrisy back and forth? So, James, thank you so much for your tweet. You're right.
It really is the same exact argument. Why at this point does it make a difference to them, but Benghazi doesn't?
Hashtag what I learned today. Tweet at Doc Thompson Show or at Skip Lacombe.
Oh, yeah, we're also getting the hashtag Common Core books out there, too. We've got some really good ones, too. We've got from Texas Yankee, The Gropes of Wrath by Bob Filner. We've got Stinky chimed in with Everybody Poops on cop cars. So if you're out there, go ahead and get on Twitter and use that hashtag Common Core Books, and maybe we can see if we can get that trending as well.
I'm going to do the Syria one right now, and then later I'm going to try to tweet it out at the president and others. You got organizing for action. You can tweet it out at all of them.
We also had one more really fun one from Donna, Malice in Wonderland. Clever, clever, clever.
I'm sending it right now. Okay. By the way, 9%, just did a survey, 9% say that Obama shouldn't intervene in Syria. 9% shouldn't intervene. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, that's
I got that backwards. 9% say he should intervene. So 91 says no. Only 9% say, yes, we ought to go ahead and do something. And it's probably going to be cruise missile strikes, folks. But 9% support us taking action in Syria. Congress has a 15% approval rating. Congress, one of the lowest rating of any governing body, certainly any legislative body, and one of the lowest in congressional history, 15% approval rating. They have almost double the number of people that support us doing something in Syria. 9%. 91% say, no, we shouldn't be doing anything, yet the president's getting down that road.
A vast majority of Americans are saying, no, it's not our place.
You're dangerously close to every American saying, no, don't do anything. 91. How many things can you even get 61% of American people? How many? 51%. And we've got 91% saying, don't do anything in Syria. Yet the president sends out John Kerry to make this argument. Another reason they're doing this whole rollout, this whole spectacle, building it up, to get some public opinion, get some public support so he can do what he ultimately wants to do and oust Assad, I believe, to give them help ousting Assad. Skip, I remember the president making an argument for greater gun control.
Oh, yeah.
And his argument, well, let me hear what his argument was a couple months ago.
Designed for the theater of war have no place in a movie theater.
Okay.
A majority of Americans agree with us on this.
So wait. So just months ago, the president made an argument, which, by the way, was flawed. The majority of Americans didn't agree with him the way it was worded, but his argument was the majority of Americans, and they said it multiple times, agreed with him for greater gun control, and that's the reason he was doing it. Do you remember the outrage afterwards that the bill got shot down? Most Americans agree with it. Well, 91% of Americans say don't do anything in Syria, no military action, yet they're still doing it. I don't hear John Kerry mentioning the majority of Americans that don't want us involved in Syria.
You're listening to The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson
on the Blaze Radio Network. Mercury.
The Blaze Radio Network. Headlines.
Watching and waiting for President Obama's decision on Syria. White House spokesman Jay Carney says there's very little doubt the Syrian regime used poison gas on its own people. Carney says Obama is evaluating a response, but he did not say when a decision could come. Secretary of State John Kerry blasting the reported chemical weapons attack, blamed for hundreds of deaths.
What we saw in Syria last week should shock the conscience of the world. It defies any code of morality. let me be clear. The indiscriminate slaughter of civilians, the killing of women and children and innocent bystanders by chemical weapons is a moral obscenity by any standard.
The Associated Press making an announcement about its coverage of Bradley Manning. The AP says from now on, it will call the convicted WikiLeaker Chelsea Manning. The wire service will also use feminine pronouns in reference to the disgraced Army private. The New York Times says it will do the same. Manning announced his intention to live as a woman a day after being sentenced to 35 years in prison. President Obama awarding the Medal of Honor to a veteran of the war in Afghanistan. Army Staff Sergeant Ty Carter risking his life to save an injured soldier during intense fighting.
And if you're left with just one image from that day, let it be this. Ty Carter bending over, picking up Stephen Mace, cradling him in his arms, and carrying him through all those bullets and getting him back to that Humvee.
Obama says Carter displayed the essence of true heroism. I'm Jim Faraday for TheBlaze.com. Don't miss Glenn Beck coming up in just 30 minutes. Now, more with Doc Thompson and the Morning Blaze on the Blaze Radio Network.
The news you need from the Blaze Radio Network.
The Morning Blaze
with Doc Thompson.
888-900-3393. Oh, yeah, we have a lot of people tweeting at this point. What difference does it make? I just posted mine up there and sent it to at the President and Organizing for America and John, Kerry, and everybody else. If you can retweet that, that'd be good. Or send it out to yourself and just send it to all of them. I think we can likely – Syria's probably going to trend on and off over the next week or so anyways. And the more you get that message out there, I think that tells quite the story right there. Number one, it reminds people of Benghazi and what actually happened. And number two, it shows their hypocrisy and exposes likely what is going to be an outrage. At this point, I'm sorry, folks. I see Syria, as flawed as it is, as a sovereign country. And what interest does America have? What interest does America have? How does that affect our American interest or the interests of Americans? To send a cruise missile or missiles into Syria. To help Assad? To hurt Assad? Does either one really help America? No. Those people killed, although tragic, they're far from the only people killed or killed in a horrific fashion. They're concerned about that, but you know who they weren't concerned about? All of the other people killed in America. Look at all the people killed in America. They're not worried about that. How about we send cruise missiles into Chicago? Can we do that? Oh, those people weren't gassed. That's the difference there. Can we send cruise missiles to the house of the two kids who brutally, savagely attacked Delbert Belton? Can we send cruise missiles to their house?
Well, and we were talking about Egypt, too. I mean, currently, right now, as I speak, there are Christians being burned in churches in Egypt. Being burned alive isn't worse than being gassed to death. I mean, many of these people died in their sleep without a drip of blood, as the secretary says. That is so much more of an atrocity than Coptic Christians being pulled out of their taxi cab because he has a crucifix hanging from his rearview mirror and beaten to death, left on the side of the road. That's fine. That's acceptable. That's the cost of doing business and the cost of a revolution.
So where let's see, Syria, Assad using chemical weapons, attacking citizens there, and John Kerry does what? He's back in D.C. He gives this speech, right? The president starts taking action. All of this, and as we've said, there's certainly a double standard when it comes to all these other countries, whether it's humanitarian, whether it comes to even the Middle East. What did John Kerry do? How did he spend his time? When the couple of weeks ago, when you had the resurgence of just savage attacks by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Remember just a couple of weeks ago? It was heading into the weekend. I think it's been a little over 2 weeks now, maybe 3. Remember the big surge when they were admitting hundreds and hundreds of people savagely attacked. And it's been going on the whole time, but specifically that brutal, bloody weekend. Where was John Kerry? What was he doing? Do you remember?
He was in Nantucket. He was just kiteboarding in Nantucket. We had people with the Blaze who were vacationing there too, and got pictures of him kite surfing. Meanwhile, thousands of people were being slaughtered, gunned down.
Now, after this chemical weapons attack in Syria, well after it happened, in other words, it's still not ongoing. Egypt's still ongoing. While that was unfolding and going forward, more and more people dying, brutally, savagely attacked in the streets, John Kerry, windsurfing there. Windsurfing, hanging out on his yacht, out in the ocean, pasty white legs, just surfing around. While it was still going on. Theoretically, Secretary of State, President, if you're that concerned with other countries and their savage attacks on their people or unrest, coups, whatever, while it's still going on, you theoretically could do some good if you think that's your job. If you think stepping in and helping these people, funding, sending troops, cruise missiles, diplomacy, whatever it is, you likely could have done some good, but they haven't. They just go about their business. Nothing to see here in Egypt. Just move on. But in Syria, after it's over, after it's done, while it's not happening anymore, then they're outraged. We're going to speechify. We're going to start military plans to go in and attack these people. If you do not have consistency from these people, there must be an ulterior motive. There must be something else going on. And I think we recognize what those ulterior motives are. There is a Syrian rebel group that have a pledge to al-Qaeda for a replacement for Osama bin Laden. It looks like this group, the Syrian Jabhat, has been, they've told us that, they don't have as much power. They're linked to al-Qaeda, but looks like they don't have as much power as maybe they used to. No. It looks like they may actually have more power than we realize. And as you see more and more trouble there, and when you see Assad, as the bad guy as he is, as he leaves power, what's going to happen, you're going to see more and more potential for terrorist acts coming out of Syria now because of the links to al-Qaeda. That's what looks like is going to be the ultimate fallout here. So are they really going after the terrorists there? Maybe that's it. They're going after the terrorists. Well, if they're going after the terrorists, then why haven't you done anything in Egypt? Folks, none of this makes any sense unless you look at there must be some ulterior motive, and that ulterior motive, it can't be just oil. I'm sorry. It can't be just, there's craziness happening, we've got to protect Israel. No, president's not interested in all that. This comes down to ideological similarities. That must be what it comes down to. Nothing else makes any sense. All right, do we have some more clips of John Kerry? I want you to hear some of the stuff that he said yesterday as he laid out this argument. And ask yourself, not just in this speech, but when the president eventually speaks on it, because he will, in the next couple of days, he'll come out and speechify on it. Jay Carney will likely say something when they eventually take some sort of action, and he tells us, as he sits behind the desk of the Oval Office, and addresses the camera a couple of nights from now and tells us why tonight we sent cruise missiles to Syria because human rights attacked his own people, defending. As they lay out all of that, continue to ask yourself, why have they made it this spectacle? And number two, why are they doing it when they're not helping anybody else?
This international norm cannot be violated without consequences. And there is a reason why, no matter what you believe about Syria, all peoples and all nations who believe in the cause of our common humanity must stand up to assure that there is accountability for the use of chemical weapons so that it never happens again.
Okay. So it looks like it's just the chemical weapons. That seems to be the only difference there. That seems to be the only one. All right, a little more from John Kerry speechifying yesterday.
Last night, after speaking with foreign ministers from around the world about the gravity of this situation, I went back and I watched the videos that anybody can watch in the social media. And I watched them one more gut-wrenching time.
Wait a minute.
Secretary of State here. This
is how he prepped himself.
I went on YouTube.
So
after I saw Keyboard Cat for the 30th time, I went back to the Syrian weapons.
First, I watched videos on Grumpy Cat. Then some Jib Jab videos.
Then, as my nightly occurrence, I watched Gangnam Style.
I watched how to make the perfect meatballs. Then on to videos of this horrific attack. So the Secretary of State is prepping by watching YouTube videos. But wouldn't you think with our intelligence, they can spy, they can do all this, that he may have those videos himself anyways? Wouldn't you think they have some sort of archive of these things and maybe some videos that you and I don't have access to?
I could just see John Kerry and his officer getting ready at the evening, too, being terribly upset he has to wait 30 seconds for that ad. Oh, I can't skip this one, damn it. Not able to skip this ad.
I'll get past the Toyota ad in 27 seconds. Then I will get to see the atrocities in Syria.
Let me just fast forward. Just back at the beginning, darn.
Apparently, the final season of Breaking Bad is quite good. Now on to those attacks in Syria. So he doesn't have an archive of videos? So really, you and I, had we gone on to watch those videos before him, would have had more knowledge about what happened in Syria than he did. He doesn't have anybody, videos, DVDs, something? Did you play it? They don't have any intelligence on this stuff? YouTube is it? That's our repository?
He could have likely listened to the real-time phone calls of everybody who was talking in Syria, and he chose to go to YouTube to do his research.
Back that up and listen.
Last night, after speaking with foreign ministers from around the world about the gravity of this situation,
serious.
I went back and I watched the videos that anybody can watch in the social media. And I watched them.
So he gets done with the big meeting, and they're like, really, this is bad here, John. Seriously. I mean, this is horrible. I don't think you realize what's going on. And he hangs up the phone, and he goes to himself, how can I find out about how serious this... Oh, let me see here. YouTube. Wait a minute. I spelled it U, the letter YouTube. That's that company. That's what sells those tubes.
Okay.
How do you spell YouTube, honey? Oh,
jeez. I've got to confirm I'm 18. I've got to log in now. Goodness gracious. I hate when I have to log in to watch the YouTube videos. I'm the Secretary of State. I'm a grown-ass man.
Do you realize this guy's worth $1 billion, so many billions of dollars, too? And here he is late at night going on the YouTube.
Watching YouTube.
I think really what's going... Let me help you out here.
You got something there?
Yeah, John was surfing for porn. Have you seen Teresa Hines?
Oh, don't. Ooh.
He was surfing for... I mean, who got the better deal there as far as looks?
Probably Teresa.
She got the better deal. I mean, John's a good-looking dude. He's out there windsurfing. You saw. He's kind of firm.
He's in shape,
He's in 70s looking that good. Yeah, John's looking at porn late at night. No, honey. I'm... looking at the terrible atrocities in Syria.
Those screams you hear? No, those are people being gassed. I promise.
He's checking out the Miley Cyrus twerking video. Miley twerking. Look at that. Your nude suit. Syria, honey. I'm looking at Syria. I mean, listen, if it not been for her billions of dollars, really? I mean, it took a couple of $1 billion for people to, find her.
Exactly.
Let's go to Chattanooga. Ryan, you're on the Morning Blaze.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when it comes to these Middle Eastern conflicts, I always like to think about what is the end game, what's the motivation behind them doing it. And thinking about Egypt, this administration wouldn't do anything in Egypt when the Muslim Brotherhood's taken over, because they have an opposition to Israel. Whereas in Syria, you have Assad, who's ambivalent to Israel for the most part, but now we're willing to strike. Now we're willing to do something because maybe their motivation is to get anybody out who would be a proponent for Israel.
I think ultimately you're right. That's the bottom line when it's all said and done. I mean, they see Israel as an abomination. That's how they view it. So you're probably right. Let me ask you a quick question though, Ryan. Did you reach this opinion by watching YouTube videos late at night?
No, I stick to Instagram.
Okay. Your Instagram, yours. Thanks.
Hashtag Syria. John Kerry's all over it on the Instagram.
Ryan, that's a pretty wise point. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the comments. 888-900-3393. Tweet at Doc Thompson Show or at Skip Lacombe. What does Grumpy Cat have to say about Syria? Have we checked Grumpy Cat?
I don't think he's actually put out a statement, but you can tell he's upset.
You can tell he's really upset about Syria.
You'd even say he's grumpy.
It's the Morning Blaze.
Not a puppy, a ninja, a dancing bird, or an angry kitty. Just a talking doc. This is the Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson on the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury.
The Morning Blaze with Doc Thompson.
All righty, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, the end of the Doc Thompson Show. But before we go, as always, let's find out what we learned today. We learned that it's ironic that North Korea makes and distributes meth, and their leaders are so fat.
Oh, well, they're not doing. The leaders aren't doing them. See, all the people are thin, but they
need to start doing it. I'm thinking Kim Jong-un, buddy. You need to get on that.
Need to slip some meth in that lobster.
I mean, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to have the mobile meth lab or anything in the Kim Jong-un mobile. But, I mean, you take a couple of that. Shave off some pounds, chubby. Fat little butterball. We learned that John Kerry's security briefings come via YouTube.
That's just sad.
We learned if masturbation was taught in schools years ago, I would have aced the SATs, and Skip would have never spent time in Pontiac. Ho!
Good morning. Waka, waka, waka.
Zing.
Wow.
Did you see that one? Zing. Shot right across the bow to you.
Hold on. August 27th, Doc, for Retribution. I'm going to remember that because that one's going to come back on you.
We learned that Miley Cyrus's MTV Music Award video may soon be used as an educational video in Wisconsin elementary schools. Hashtag twerking. We learned that Rancid Prius carry... No, I'm sorry.
Let me start that. 3, 2...
We learned that RNC Chairman Rancid Prius thinks that people who campaign for a job making or enforcing the laws shouldn't actually talk about the rule of laws. He is such a goof. Skip Lacombe, producer, what, if anything, did you learn today?
I learned in an effort to be more inclusive, all Wisconsin students will graduate with the summa cum laude.
Just move on.
We learned Dr. House and Vinny Boombots treated Doc's son at the Cleveland Clinic.
Give me that one again.
Dr. House and Dr. Vinny Boombots treated Doc's son at the Cleveland Clinic.
My doctor, Vinny Boombots.
Hey!
He gave me a gun.
I learned Doc Thompson's book club for the month of September proudly selects F. Scoot Fitzgerald's The Great Gypsy.
It's big, baby.
It's a great book.
It's a good movie, too, but try the book.
And finally, Ryan Priebus is sorry for the GOP's mistakes like John McCain and Marco Rubio.
All right, Skip Lacombe, what, if anything, did the listeners learn today?
Sin Nicky learned never ask Johnny what he learned with the full amount of milk.
No.
The full mouth of milk.
No, that's not good.
Skip to Zip learned today's episode of Sesame Street is on self-stimulation was brought to you by the letter X and the numbers 6 and 9.
Oh!
Good morning. Aiden learned there are many things that will end up Doc naked in the clock tower. It's going to happen.
I know, it's only a matter of time.
Clinton learned that Doc is an aromatherapist and really knows what stinks. Actually, Clinton, he's not an aromatherapist. He's a doctor of aromatherapy. We need to make sure to get that. After the lawsuit, we need to... Stephen Sexton learned why a little silly thing like the rule of law get in the way of a political win.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Preacher Norm learned 2016 GOP candidate, a rainbow-sniffing unicorn writing who believes the rule of law is a bad thing. I think he would have a chance. I really do.
Wait, give me that again. That was really good.
Preacher Norm learned the 2016 GOP candidate, a rainbow-sniffing unicorn rider who believes the rule of law is a bad thing. So Marco Rubio?
John McCain.
John McCain? Okay.
We've already had that. We had that last election.
And
the one before.
For that and
the one before.
For that, yeah, exactly.
The one before that. The one before that.
Jonathan learned, I think Jason Chaffetz's GPS is broken. # wrong pathway. Dead to us, Jason. Not a lemming learned, John Kerry said killing in Syria with chemical weapons is immoral, so I guess burning cops in church is okay, though.
That's all right.
That's okay. If you're Coptic in Egypt...
Now, how do they light them on fire? With a natural source like wood or chemicals?
Oh, I think it may be like gasoline, just kind of...
Okay, that's a chemical, and that's bad. So as long as it's wood.
All right. Little Miss Chatterbox learned amnesty is forced on us, and there's nothing funny I can say about it. # jobs not amnesty.
I'm with you.
Big Daddy will learn if you're at USA for advice on how to secure your southern border,
you're
doing it wrong. Very good.
Hey, can you help us out? You've been so successful keeping us out.
Jeez. John S. learned the healthcare system can actually drive you to run naked to a clock tower.
Yeah, it can.
EJM learned... Okay, deep breath. Atrocities with high velocity ferocity lack veracity and audacity ridiculously really. See, I've missed it.
I like that one. That was good. That was pretty good. Try it again. I'll give you that.
No.
No one will ever hear it. We'll edit it out.
Okay.
No one will hear that.
EJM learned atrocities with high velocity ferocity lack veracity and are I can't audacitously. I don't. What is that word there?
You're going to blame it like you wrote it wrong. I understand.
Audacitously ridiculous. Really.
You know what? That would have been a good. Instagram one for you to send in, EJ.
Senior Lumpy learned John Kerry's outrage that more countries don't have kiteboards is a moral outrage. Finally, John B. learned we are the 91%.
Wow, that's really solid. You're right. We are the 91% standing against military action in Syria.
Also, too, we're going to be asking you all day long to go ahead and send in those Common Core books. Use that # Common Core Books on Twitter. Donna recommended Malice in Wonderland.
I like that one.
We got Jonathan recommending The Joy of Sexting. Texas Yankee learned, that's related with Common Core Books, how the Grinch invented Christmas to oppress other religions. Mark thinks a good Common Core book could be One Fish, Two Fish, the world's being destroyed by the American Jewfish.
Those are really good. # Common Core Books if you have any. Coming up tonight, Skip and I are going to be in Troy, Ohio. We're going to be at the Courthouse Plaza across from John Boehner's office there. It starts at 3:30. We'll wrap up about 6. It's Pull the Plug on Obamacare. Do not fund it. Please join us, Troy, Ohio, tonight. Again, that is more this afternoon, 3:30 to 6 o'clock. And then we'll have another big event, more focusing on immigration and telling John Boehner, do the right thing and don't come up with some silly amnesty bill. That will be Saturday, September 7th. Make your plans tonight in Troy, Ohio, and then Saturday, September 7th in Westchester, Ohio, near his office there. We've also started booking dates for our fall tour as the countdown to the midterm elections. Skip and I are going to be going town to town, hopefully meeting you and your Patriot group. All the details of the dates and places that we've scheduled so far at DocThompson.com, but we still have some open dates. Get your Patriot group together. If they can host us, just tweet at Doc Thompson Show or at Skip Lacombe. Use that hashtag DocTour, DocTour, and maybe we'll be coming to your town. Hopefully we can meet up with you. I expect, pay attention to Twitter this afternoon to have another announcement today of another date.
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry to get to those new numbers on procrastination tomorrow. I got those coming up tomorrow. What else do we have coming up on the big show tomorrow?
Wide variety of cutting-edge, compelling, hard-hitting topics that impact conservatives and all Americans.
What does Glenn have coming up today? Because he was fired up yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday, in fact, at the top of the third hour, this is going to be really good. A wide variety of cutting-edge, compelling, hard-hitting topics that impact Coptics and all Americans.
And you want to be my latex salesman. All right, folks, remember the Doc Thompson Show is a Skip Lacombe production for now. Sic Semper Tyrannis. Good night, Steve Cannon.
Wherever you are.
On Young. Now, you go home.
And the best Common Core book, Dreams of My Baby Daddy.
That is, listen, that's offensive.
It's not me, the listener.
It's really funny.
The Morning Blaze
with Doc Thompson. Only on the Blaze Radio Network.
Mercury.